Hey everyone, and welcome back. So it is full-on winter now here in Flagstaff. We've got several inches of snow on the ground outside and it is cold. So I haven't really been riding the bike all that much. In fact, I've already put the fuel stabilizer in it. I've changed the spark plug, changed the oil, and really it's been sitting in the garage undercover, effectively winterized, although there's still a chance I might take it back out if the weather gets warm enough. So with that said, I thought that I would put out a video that's essentially a part 2 to a video I put out earlier this year. You may remember a few months ago, I posted a video all about some simple tips and tricks or hacks that you could do with your Himalayan just to make your life a little bit easier. These were all little things that I had come to discover with the bike over the year that I'd been riding it that, again, just really made my life easier. Now, since that video came out, I've got a lot of responses to it, a lot of feedback, mostly good, some bad, but you know, that's how it goes, I guess. But it did inspire me to start really keeping track of all the things that I've been doing to the bike, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, with the hopes that I would then be able to put out a second video of additional tips and tricks. So welcome to part 2 of the tips and tricks and hacks video. I'm just gonna step through a series of little things that I've done or plan to do with the bike that, again, will hopefully make my life easier and potentially your life easier as well. So let's get into it. All right, so starting up at the front of the bike, one of the first things that I've come to discover over the last few months is that the well nuts that hold the windshield in place that come from the factory are just terrible. They're too short and they crack and dry rot too easily. I noticed while I was riding one day that my windshield was making all sorts of weird squeaky sounds and it was rattling around a lot and it was very loose and wiggly. And when I went to investigate, I realized that 2 of the well nuts had completely rotted and broken off, meaning my windshield was only being held in place by 2 of them. So all I did was I went on Amazon and bought some replacement well nuts, as you can see here. They're much longer, much stronger, much more stable, and since putting those in, my windshield is incredibly stable, doesn't wiggle, doesn't make any sounds, and I've only had to adjust the screws once since replacing them. So it's a really simple and cheap fix to make sure that you have a nice and stable windshield that's not gonna fall off. So staying up here on the front of the bike and on the topic of annoying sounds, I was plagued for several months with a really frustrating rattling sound coming from the area of the instrument cluster. Now, I was convinced this noise was coming from inside the instrument cluster, and I went so far as to actually disassembling it and tightening some of the plastic parts inside. Well, when that didn't fully resolve the problem, I sort of just gave up on it until I watched a video one day on YouTube where someone was saying that their headlight assembly was actually rattling against its plastic housing. So what I did was I put a single strip of black electrical tape between the front of the housing and the plastic back of the headlight housing, and it has completely eliminated the rattle. So what that means is that the actual rattling noise was coming from that connection point. So it's definitely a hack, using a piece of tape to correct a problem, literally band-aiding it, but it's a really simple and effective way to get rid of that sound if you are experiencing a similar rattle coming from the front of your bike. All right, so I know I've spoken ad nauseum about my tool tubes here and the practicality of having them on your bike, but there is still one significant point and tip that I think is worth relaying to all of you, and that is that the tool tubes can also be used as fuel tubes. So what I've done is I've reconfigured the contents of my tubes now so that I can permanently carry a 1-liter fuel canister on this side of the bike. Now I know 1 liter is not very much, it probably only gets you 15 miles or something, but it is nice just having that little bit of extra security when I go out on a long ride, say up to SB Crater or over to Kendrick Peak or something. The other thing that's nice is right now I've got this canister filled with stabilized fuel so that if I do happen to take the bike out for a quick jaunt around the neighborhood, if the weather clears up, I can still top off the tank with stabilized fuel. Another quick tip for those of you that are going to be doing motovlogging is you can pick up these little GoPro attachments really cheaply online and put them basically all over your bike. So I've got this one here attached to the front engine guard. So anytime you've seen footage on my videos looking down sort of at the front tire, I've mounted the GoPro to this mount right here. Similarly, if you look back here, you can see I've got a small mount on my pannier, and then up front I've got a couple of extra ball ram mounts where I can put camera's facing forward. So all that is to say that you can order a lot of different types of cheap GoPro attachments to basically get footage all around your bike. And I know that's basically common sense, but I just wanted to make sure to reiterate that. So on the topic of motovlogging and GoPros, something that I've only recently really come to discover and play around with is the GPS function on my GoPro. So by enabling that function, your videos will automatically record your telemetry data, so your location, your speed, your altitude, and then when you extract those videos for editing, you can extract that data and then overlay the telemetry data in your videos. Now you can do that either using the GoPro app on your tablet or your phone if you choose to go that route, or you can use third-party programs like Garmin's Verb Edit, which is what I use to make the videos that have the telemetry overlay. All right, so moving over here to the workbench for a second, I wanted to pass along one quick tip that I failed to mention in my previous video that I wanted to go on record saying in this video. And that is, if you think you're going to be doing your own oil changes, I highly recommend bulk buying some of the parts, accessories, and equipment you'll need to do your changes so that you have enough to at least do 2 additional changes. You never know what kind of supply chain issues there's going to be, or if you're going to run out of parts or something, or if you might mess something up or a gasket breaks or something like that. It's always nice to have a few extra parts. So I always order enough oil online to be able to do 2 changes. So I've got 4 quarts or 4 liters right now of the Modal 5100 in my cabinet ready to go for the next 2 changes. In addition, I've ordered a baggie of 4 additional crush washers here and also a magnetic drain plug, which I still have to put in. This came from Hitchcock's, but I think you can get them on Amazon. I've also got an additional O-ring for the oil strainer cover. Now this isn't something that you need to change every oil change, but it's good to just have a spare in case maybe it rips or it breaks or something, or it's just due for a change. And lastly, I've got 2 additional genuine oil filters and gaskets in my cabinet right now to get me going for the next 2 oil changes. Now this is all after I've just done my winter oil change already, so I've still got enough in my cabinet to do 2 additional changes. So another thing that you can do to your Himalayan that's really cheap, incredibly quick to do, and super easy is to swap out that factory spark plug with a high quality iridium plug. I picked up this NGK iridium plug online for something like $8 US, and ever since installing it, the bike has run smoothly, has installed, and has performed well. So maybe it's all psychosomatic and in my head. I just know for $9, it's worth it either way. I always keep 1 extra of these plugs in the tools that I carry on the bike, plus I've got 2 extra spares in my cabinet. I also just replace the plug every winter anyway for standard maintenance, and it gives me a chance to check the spark plug gap as well. All right, so if you're like me and you like to ride in the cold weather, you probably also have the same problem I do with your visor fogging up. Now, obviously, there's a lot of solutions to help combat that, things like pin lock or those hydrophobic decals that you can put on the inside of your visor. For me, I just picked up some of this hydrophobic liquid that you rub into the back of the visor, every 3 or 4 rides, and it seems to be pretty effective. But something that I also found is that this same company makes individually wrapped anti-fog wipes, which are fantastic for on the go. Just like with my electronics cleaner wipes, I carry these now all over my bike, in my panniers, in my tank bag, in my backpack, in my toolkit, just all over the bike. And so if I'm out in a place and the weather starts to change or it starts to get really cold and my visor starts fogging up, I can just pull one of these little wipes out. They basically look like wet wipes, and just wipe down the inside of the visor, and they're surprisingly effective. And I think this entire box was something like $15, and it comes with 120 wipes. All right, if you're going to be doing any kind of drone photography from your motorcycle, unless you have one of the new Skydio drones that's completely autonomous, you're going to need to have access to your remote somewhere on the bike. Now, a lot of people will put it on top of their tank bags if they're riding with one. I generally don't ride with a tank bag unless I'm going on a long trip. So what I've done is I've simply put a couple of strips of Velcro on the back here and then put the opposing pieces right on the gas tank so that I can basically put the remote right there and it stays perfectly steady and does not fall off. So this way I can ride, I can stand up, and I can just reach down, and if I need to adjust the drone in any way, I've got quick and easy access to it that I know is stable. So a recent problem that I had with my Himalayan has to do with the factory panniers. I got back from a ride a couple weeks ago and I opened my pannier to put something in it, and I noticed that one of the mounting brackets was missing. So this is what I saw when I opened my pannier. On the left side over here, the mounting wheel and bracket was completely in place and it was mounted to the mounting rack on the bike. But on this side, the actual mounting bolt had unwound itself, was lying inside the pannier, but the bolt that connects to the bar had completely popped out and fallen off somewhere on the ride. So my pannier was only connected to the bike by this single connection point. No big deal, I thought. I'll just order another replacement one of these parts. Well, it turns out this particular part is really hard to find. I reached out to 2 different Royal Enfield dealers and to major companies like Hitchcock's, and no one was able to order this part for me because it comes with the panniers. So this is where I'll tell you that online forums can be your friend. I spent about 30 minutes on a Royal Enfield forum asking about this particular part, and very quickly someone was able to tell me that yes, Royal Enfield doesn't sell you this part separately. However, Touratech sells an identical part, the same thread, the same everything, fits exactly the same for whatever their particular panniers are. So all I did was I ordered their part instead, and everything fits exactly right. So if you happen to lose this part, you can order a replacement from Touratech. So another good tip, especially if you're in the States, if you want to get your Himalayan somewhere and you don't have a trailer, but you need to get your bike somewhere to the shop or to a trailhead or something, rent one from UHaul. You can rent a motorcycle trailer for 15 bucks a day, keep it for multiple days. So even if you want to go on a 5 to 7 day adventure trip, it's going to cost you less than 100 bucks. And the best part is it's so light, I can pull it with my Subaru. All right, so just a couple of quick equipment tips for you. You might recall in that more recent video where I went back to Harding Point, I was sort of lounging in that really nice low camp chair. I would just recommend that if you think you're going to be doing a lot of camping or just going to places where you're going to take long breaks and you want to sit down, invest in a really cheap, lightweight, foldable camp chair. So that chair that you saw in the video, this is the entire chair wrapped up. It fits in my pannier nice and tightly, very small footprint, and it folds out to a remarkably comfortable chair. Let me show you. Took less than 2 minutes to unfold. It makes a surprisingly comfortable chair. And it weighs nothing. All right, so lastly, with regards to equipment, if you know that you're going to be taking some shots off of the bike, whether they're cinematic or scenic or just simply shots where you set up a position and you ride by, various shots like that, then I highly recommend picking up a lightweight and portable tripod. Now, obviously something like this is not the best tripod you can get. I have a much nicer, more robust tripod, but it's so big and heavy, and it's a real pain to take with me when I go on rides. This guy here, while it may be a little bit more cheaply made and not the best one out there, it folds up really small, it's incredibly lightweight, and it fits in my pannier. So I can basically bring it along with me on just about any ride, and 99% of the time it works perfectly well for getting really good shots. One last bonus, it even comes with its own carrying pouch that you can sling over your shoulder when you're going out to a filming site. Ooh, one last thing that I forgot to mention, if you have RAM ball mounts like this one here, make sure that you take the equipment off from time to time, because if you leave things on the ball mounts too long, cranked down too tight, it can actually deform the mounts. All right, so I thought I would end this video with one potential bonus tip. However, I will say that the jury is still out on this tip as I haven't properly tested it yet. Now, you may recall I've spoken at length about the problems that exist when trying to mount your cell phone, particularly newer cell phones, to a motorcycle like the Himalayan, a single-cylinder, high-vibration motorcycle. It has the ability to disrupt or destroy the image stabilization in your camera. And that's exactly what happened to my previous phone. I destroyed it by taking it on a long trip on the Himalayan. So in the short term, I've been using my old phone and mounting it on the bike because I honestly don't care if the image stabilization breaks on it. So what I've done is I've picked up a new mount for the Himalayan called a QuadLock. Now the QuadLock comes with an option anti-vibration dampener, which has gotten a lot of really good reviews and feedback. Now I haven't fully tested it yet, but I am cautiously optimistic. So I'm also really curious to hear from some of you who may have this setup, if it's been effective or if your phone has still been destroyed by the vibration. But again, I'm cautiously optimistic, and there may come a point where I'm feeling bold enough to try actually mounting my new phone to it. The other really nice thing about the QuadLock is how your phone mounts to it. You simply get a special case for your phone that has the QuadLock connection on it, and then you can just twist and lock and keep the phone in place. So you don't have the big clunky, weird spring-loaded connections like you do on a traditional mount. So if you've used this mount and you have some positive or negative feedback about it, I'd love to hear it in the comments. All right, guys, well, that's going to do it for episode 2 of my Himalayan tips, tricks, and hacks. Hopefully you found this video just as useful as the last one, and I will certainly keep track of any adjustments, modifications, or tweaks that I make to the bike in the future so that I can hopefully come out with an episode 3. So thank you so much for sticking around to the end. As always, take care and be safe out there. And I'll end this video by asking a small favor. Since we've got multiple inches of snow outside and a lot of ice, I can't go for a ride right now. So get out there, go on a fun ride, tell me about it in the comments, and send me the link, and I will live vicariously through all of you. See y'all.